Welcome to the 615 Sessions podcast here on this Thursday afternoon. Titans and Seahawks joint training camp practice concluded earlier today. We're happy to have you in for another episode. Going to do things a little differently today because I've been running around all over the place. We had Levis on the radio show. That was an interesting conversation. You should 10 out of 10 check that out. 10 out of 10 recommend is what I mean to say. I combined two metaphors, but that's not a big deal. You are going to hear some great analysis from Greg Cosell of NFL Films because he was in town for Titans and Seahawks joint camp practices. And there were a lot of interesting things that Greg noticed that, maybe the untrained eye like me or Lucas or Bert or Kirby may not have otherwise spotted. So that's what we're going to do in lieu of a guest co-host from Titans Media today. I'm going to let you hear a portion of that conversation. I would, like I said, recommend you go check out the radio show today with Greg Cosell, with Will Levis. We had a great time keeping tabs on what was not the best practice for this Titans offense in particular. Defense sounds like they had a much better day, and starters not expected to play in the preseason. Malik Willis is going to get the start, but instead of me yammering about things that you already know about, I'm going to turn things over to Greg Cosell from the radio show earlier today. It's just kind of one continuing day for the better part of a month. And Zone. It is the second day of Titans Seahawks joint training camp practice, and we are hanging out here with you until 1 o'clock. Today's guest on the radio show, Greg Cosell, is here with us this morning to start. We're grateful for his presence. We've got Lucas, Kirby, Sammy, the whole crew, and Will Levis will be on the radio show today, so we're looking forward to that. Did you just spray me with the cologne?
Sure did.
I don't want to smell like mayonnaise.
You do.
I don't want that anywhere near me.
It actually smells nothing like mayonnaise.
I don't think that's true. I feel like
it's very true.
There's I just got a whiff of egg. I don't want anything to do with that. So we will hose Bert down in Will Levis's mayo cologne later on in the show after practice concludes. But Greg is here to make us smarter. He's taken in the joint camp practices over the course of the last couple of days, and we'll do so again today. Buddy, it's good to see you.
Great to be here. Yeah, having a good time.
Yeah, we're
amazingly enough, it's hot in Nashville in August.
Yeah, you know what? But this is fortunately we have dodged the majority of the bullets.
Right,
on that,
right.
But today it is expected.
I think today's going to be one of those days.
It is going to be one of those days, and the players will have to work through it. So. A lot of different things to take in, Greg. I know primarily you watched offense yesterday.
I did.
And you will focus on defense today. But I guess when you decided you were going to make this trip, because we obviously just went into it with Denard yesterday, when you decided you wanted to make this trip, what most intrigued you about seeing not just the Titans, but these two teams working against one another and kind of how that projects out for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of training camps, and I always find training camps tough because for this reason, you don't know specifically what teams want to work on, and you can't watch everybody. It's just not humanly possible. So what I come to watch, and there's certain things I look for. Like, for instance, I spent most of the time watching the Titans offense yesterday. And watching that, particularly in the pass game, what I always look for is I want to see the ball come out when they work on pass plays with timing and rhythm, because that's how it's coached. That's what the coaching staff wants to see. They don't want to see the quarterback drop back and stand there and wait and wait and wait, or have to just run around. They want to work on their route concepts. Every coach wants the quarterback to be able to throw to the primary receiver based on what they call versus a defense that they might anticipate. And again, we don't even know that in a training camp situation. We don't know if they're told that, hey, the defense is going to work on playing man coverage, so maybe they work on man beater route concepts. Hey, the defense is going to play primarily zone, so work on your zone beater route concepts. That's the stuff we don't really know. But every coach, offensive coach, wants to see the ball come out on time. That's the way it's coached. And, yesterday they struggled a bit with that. I'm sure that they talked about that. And by the way, I always think, and I've learned this from coaches through the years, they would almost rather have it be problematic at times in training camp because that's what they want to work on. The last thing you want is to get to week one and then it's problematic and you think, oh, well, we got a lot to work on now, because you don't want to be working on those things while you're losing games. So I never feel like, and I know maybe fans do, maybe some other writers do, that, oh, my God, Will Levis dropped back and he got stuck. He didn't know where to throw the ball or there was no throw. All that is part of the process. You want to go through that. You want to figure all that out now. That's the whole point.
What did you see that you liked from Titans receivers that you have studied? Obviously, Calvin Ridley, you're familiar with to this point in his career. Couldn't connect on a couple of those deep balls.
Right.
They're really close on it, just didn't quite connect yesterday. And then Jaquan Jackson maybe stole the show yesterday with a couple touchdowns, one catch and run slant for 70 yards.
And well, it's funny. He's an interesting guy, and I actually, brought my notes from when I did these guys on tape because Jackson played at Tulane, and he's a quick, shifty, fast guy, predominantly a slot or movement guy. There's always a place, and again, we don't know how the receiver core is going to shake out. We know Hopkins may not be ready till week 2, maybe week 1 if it all goes well. We know who the top 3 receivers will be. You have to assume, barring anything unforeseen, that Treylon Burks will be 4. So now you'd have to assume they'll keep 6 because Westbrook Heaney is going to make the team because he's such a reliable player and he's a special teamer. So he's going to make the team. So now, who's the 6th receiver, and what are they looking for in that 6th receiver? Because let's say, for instance, that Jackson and Kyle Phillips are neck and neck. Let's assume that for the moment. They're different players. So now, which is what we don't know at this moment, what are they looking for in that guy? Jackson gives you more explosiveness than Phillips. Phillips is probably better working in the short to intermediate areas. So what are they looking for in that receiver if he has to play? And Jackson obviously gives you explosiveness both vertically and run after catch, as we did see yesterday in both cases.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. We are also hanging out here with you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. For the people who are watching out on Zone TV, Lucas, don't look too closely at Greg's notes. It's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Your skin will start to melt from your face. It's too much football information for anyone mere mortal to handle, which is why we have Greg taking care of those documents. Greg, sticking with the offense, the run game is something that I know is going to be interesting here, not just in the absence of Derrick Henry, but because of the 2 players in Spears and in Pollard that they have, and in how Bill Callahan is going to assist coordinating this rushing attack with his offensive line group and the stylistic approach that they take.
It's a great point. Great point, Buck. And I think one of the things that stands out, and knowing also Bill Callahan's history, but I saw it in just the first team offense playing. I watched Levis, through, I guess, 14, 15 plays, and then seeing it out here yesterday, is you're going to see a lot more pulling by offensive linemen than I think we've seen in the past couple of years. He did a ton of that in Cleveland. Now, he had 2 really good guards in Cleveland that were excellent pullers, but we saw it both in the game this past weekend and out here yesterday. You saw the center Cushenberry pull. Skoronski is going to pull. They're going to have an offense where they pull. Even Latham on the second play of the game in the first preseason game, he had an outside pull. So you're going to see much more of that. That's going to be, in my view, a foundational part of the run game, and I think that's something Callahan believes in, and I think we'll see more of it throughout training camp.
Cincinnati and Tennessee, Cincinnati by nature of where Brian Callahan comes from as the offensive coordinator there, they're not built the same as an offense, but the system is what he's going to try and implement here. They did have an emphasis on their rushing attack with Joe Mixon as their primary back, because when they were able to spread it out, they were able to create 5-6 yard rush opportunities for Mixon and things like that, and they were fundamentally committed to running the football. And I think people have this preconceived notion of high-flying offense, 3 wide receivers, it's all just going to be passes and no more running on first down. But that's not fundamentally who the Bengals were with Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor calling the
And I don't think they want to be that here either. First of all, it's a new O-line. I mean, obviously, Cushenberry's a free agent. Latham's a number 1 pick who's going to start at left tackle. Skoronski's in his second year, having a difficult first season due to the appendectomy. The right side of the O-line could well be different. So, they want to be able to run the ball. They don't want to put, and Levis is still, probably in Nashville, it may seem like Levis has been around, for 5 years now, but he's still only a second-year quarterback that's relatively inexperienced. What did he play, 8 or 9 games last year, give or take? So he's a relatively inexperienced. And by the way, behind, not to dredge up the past, behind a poor offensive line, I made the note because I watched all the third downs of Levis from last year, and I made the note that because of the O-line play, that it was almost impossible for the Titans to develop any kind of rhythmic passing game on third down. So, Levis in many ways is a rookie, so you're not going to ask him to drop back 40 times a game by choice, unless, of course, the game dictates and you're down 21-3 in the second quarter. So the run game is going to be truly foundational to what they do. And they've got 2 backs who are very good, who I think can run pretty much any scheme. They can run gap scheme with pulling linemen. They can run zone schemes. So, however the division of labor there, we don't know the answer to that right now. But you're right, Buck. That's going to be a major part of what they do.
What are the key differences that you see in Pollard and Spears in terms of their skill set? We talk all the time about how similar they are. What situationally, how could you see the Titans utilizing one over the other? Or do you really feel it's just that even-keeled and it's just a hot hand conversation?
I think they're relatively similar. Pollard last year did have 250 carries. I'm not sure that's going to happen here in Nashville because of Spears. But, I think they would like it to be a balance. Like I said, I think you can run the same stuff. It's not as if they have 2 different backs, Lucas, that you say, when one guy's in, you're going to see this. When the other guy's in, you're going to see this. I think in terms of how they can be deployed within the context of a run game, they're very similar. I think the other thing you're going to see is they can be detached from the formation in the pass game. The one thing I'm curious to see, I don't recall seeing it yesterday unless I missed it, because sometimes you don't remember everything. It would not surprise me at times if they're both on the field at the same time, because they're both really good receivers. And now you put a little pressure on how is the defense going to play that, both from a personnel standpoint and from a schematic coverage standpoint. Because you can detach both guys from the formation, and they both have ability to run more than just, check downs and short routes.
Callahan, extremely complimentary of them yesterday in terms of their pass protection. Said he's never been around 2 backs better at pass pro than Pollard and Spears.
That is so critical, because the way the league has evolved with pressure schemes is they come from different places now. It's not just, let's say, linebackers who are stacked behind D linemen. You're getting slots. You're getting people from the third level, and very often offensive linemen, their field of vision is not looking at a safety who's 12 yards off the ball. So your backs. And I remember Merrill Hodge, who I worked with for years and years, always telling me that backs had to understand defensive fronts and looks the same as a quarterback. And I think that has to be taught that way, because, backs have to protect. And it's, when guys come from distance in blitzing, which is now part of the NFL, they have to be aware of that. They have to understand who the O-line has. They have to understand, who the fifth rusher is, so the O-line has that guy, and if anybody else comes, they have him. That's all part of the gig now, and you've got to be able to step up. Very often, running back pass protection, yes, you want it to be great technique, but very often it's just want to. You've got to step up, and you've got to just lay your body into somebody.
Greg Cosell of NFL Films is here hanging out live with us at Titans Seahawks joint training camp practice. And a lot of people out here hanging out watching Titans Seahawks. We saw Jeff Fisher this morning. Matt Hasselbeck and Tim Hasselbeck are in the house. I saw Matt Castle just walk by.
Moonshine Mariani is here.
Mariani is here.
You saw Matt Castle?
Matt Castle literally just walked by us. I had to double take for a second because he got a ball cap
good.
on.
I'll go say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people hanging out taking in practice today. So you are going to focus today on
a little more on the defense, yeah.
We talked to Donard Wilson yesterday, and it was a much smarter conversation. Thank God you were here for that. But with what you know about the defensive, the systems that he has worked under and coached under
and played under,
and the personnel that they have at their disposal here, what are you looking for specifically today?
Well, I think, and again, because the 2 corners are not practicing, the guys who will be the starting corners, let's talk a little more generally, if we could.
Sure.
Because I think what he wants it to be, and I think that's why they sign Snead and Awuzie is I think they want to play press man. And again, what I'm saying now doesn't mean you're doing this 100% of the snaps. But, you have to be foundational in some way. I think you're going to see press man, and I think you're going to see pressure. And again, like I said, that doesn't mean every play there's pressure. But I think they want this to be an aggressive defense that makes the offense have to react to them, as opposed to sitting back and bend but don't break kind of philosophy. Now, again, everything's situational. On 3rd and 13, you're probably not going to be crazy.
Right.
But I think generally speaking, they want to be physical in coverage, and they want to be aggressive with pressure.
Greg Cosell of NFL Films. He does the podcast with me every Wednesday. It's called The Install. Of course, the NFL Matchup Show is right around the corner on ESPN. Set your DVRs. You can get it on demand as well. And 3HL. Are you doing 3HL today?
I guess I am. It's Thursday, isn't it?
It is a Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
I lose track of the days when I'm, at these,
Brother, training camp is just kind of one continuing day
I know.
for the better part of a month and a half.